Hello, Star Trek fans, and welcome to the Rebinge Deep Space Nine podcast. My name is Kim.
And my name is James.
And we're watching Star Trek Deep Space Nine from the beginning, one episode at a time. Welcome back to the podcast. Today we are on Season 5, Episode 19, Ties of Blood and Water. This episode aired April 14th, 1997. Before we talk about this one, anything to say about last week's episode?
No, it was perfect.
What do you think last week's episode was? I don't remember because last week for us was actually Comic-Con and we didn't record.
It was business as usual, Ferengis selling arms to unreputable people.
That was a pretty good episode. Nothing horribly Ferengi in that episode.
I kind of liked it. I'm still sticking with Quark thought in his simplistic view, copying the Federation and just getting people together to talk was going to work.
Yeah.
And the plan's bad enough for one of his, so...
Yeah, good point. No, we had a good discussion about that one.
Yes.
I'm not sure it made sense that Quark didn't get murdered in the end, but it's okay. I'll allow it.
Like I said, you don't kill the caterers.
Yeah. Well, we did survive Comic-Con.
Indeed.
And it was quite a crowd.
It was.
It was almost like a normal-sized crowd. It was very crazy and busy and hot. That was normal for San Diego Comic-Con.
And I got to dress up as Judge Dredd for 3 days, so...
That is true. Did you put pictures of yourself on your Instagram?
Yes, I did. There are some great pictures up on Instagram.
I could post an image of you on our Instagram as well.
Sure.
No Star Trek characters for us this year.
But I am trying to convince you to play a Star Trek character for next year.
You are. It will not be someone wearing one of the completely unflattering Star Trek uniforms.
Well, you started it. You were asking me about it, so...
Yeah, well, after Comic-Con, I always think it's a good idea. And then as Comic-Con approaches, I'm like, oh my God, it's too hot to wear a costume. Anyway, no one needs to hear this. All right, well, should we talk about this episode?
Absolutely. But I will say up front, there is not a lot of overanalysis in this episode.
It's not very complicated.
No.
I would say, though, if you have not listened to the episode or watched the episode Second Skin, you need to go back and watch that episode and listen to our podcast about it. And then come back and listen to this episode. Because we are not going to rehash what we talked about in that one, but it does come up in this episode.
It's a great episode, so that is required viewing before this.
Yeah, Second Skin is a great episode, not just because of how good it is in terms of the story, but the performances, certainly by Nana Visitor, but also by the guest stars in that episode were really good. And it's got some important stuff that happens too at the end. So very worth watching.
Agreed.
And it's always worth listening to us talk about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go and listen to us. We have a lot to say about that episode.
Yeah, for sure.
And the performance in that episode by Gregory Sierra, even though it was a character who didn't have a lot of on-screen time, he really brought that individual to life.
Yeah, he was good. All right, well, back to this one.
Yes, after we spent 30 minutes talking about something else.
Only 6 minutes. In the cold open, Kira, Dax, and Worf are waiting for a visit from Tekeny Ghemor. Kira is excitingly telling the other two that she wants Ghemor treated like a head of state because he led the dissident movement against Central Command on Cardassia, and now there is no one better suited to lead the opposition against Dukat. She says he may be the only hope for Cardassia. We know right away that she's way too happy, so something bad is going to happen.
Oh, I know. As soon as you see Kira, like, bubbly and in a good mood, you're like, bad things are going to happen.
Dex gives us a quick episode recap of the Second Skin episode where we first met Ghemor. And Kira, by the end of that episode, was able to see him as a father figure because he was sort of a victim in that episode, too. And he was not the reason that she had been kidnapped.
Well, he's also a victim of Cardassia as well, of the government and their thinking.
Oh, for sure.
His daughter was tragically a true believer. Yeah. And as far as he knows, as far as we know, she was sacrificed for the cause.
Yeah. Well, he finally arrives, and he's wearing what looks like the hottest, itchiest Cardassian wool top. It's another old man sweater. The Cardassians just love...
Cardassians love those things. It's part of their culture.
They love an old man sweater. Kira gives him a big hug, and Worf is reluctant to shake his hand, but he does. This is likely neither a Klingon nor a Cardassian thing to do, so the whole thing is a little awkward. Tekeny notices Kira is wearing that ugly bracelet that he gave her last time they were together, and he's very happy about that.
And he says, that was just a joke. I didn't think you were going to wear it.
Oh my God, it really is ugly. And then he says he's tired, and Kira walks him to his quarters.
You notice here the giant bags have reappeared.
Yeah, the kind of bags where you just dump everything into and then you can't find anything. Yeah, we've gone back to season 1 with the luggage.
Yeah, I thought they had baggage handlers now.
Yeah. After they've walked off, Worf says to Dax that it seems wrong that Kira is friends with a Cardassian. And Dax says she didn't think she'd be friends with anyone 5 years ago, which is kind of mean. It's funny to me how much racism is just casually thrown into Star Trek conversations like that. I mean, we paint entire alien races with a single brush, and we just do it without any sort of conversations about why that's maybe a bad idea. I wonder if this was done consistently as some kind of a statement, or if it was just accidental, but it happens all the time.
Maybe it is accidental because they're trying to build drama and conflict.
Yeah.
Which is one of the things that Deep Space Nine did compared to traditional Star Trek.
Yeah.
You would expect if you were following a Picardian Star Trek line, that Worf's position on this would be more along the lines of, it's refreshing to see Cardassians and Bajorans getting together. This is embracing Federation ideals.
Yeah.
And Worf happy to accept a handshake from a Cardassian because it is reconciliation and building the common bonds between people. But I think in Deep Space Nine, for the story, you're going to have, all Cardassians are evil.
Yeah, but also she is already friends with a Cardassian. She has Zayel.
That's very true, but she's half Bajoran.
Yeah, but she still half Cardassian.
Okay, that is very true. I can't talk myself out of that one.
Yeah, all right.
But before we leave this, wouldn't Worf have at least read Kira's record to have some kind of background on her?
Yes, you would think that Worf would already know about this story, except in the episodic world of television, we have to assume that the rest of the world doesn't know, and we have to do a quick explanation.
Question here.
Yeah.
Do you think Dax was trill-splaining to Worf?
I mean, I could see her doing that, but no. Well, now we go to Ghemor's quarters, and Kira says that Bajoran security still has no leads on his actual daughter. I think her name was Ileana.
That is correct.
He says he accepts that she's dead and tells Kira that she's now the closest thing to family that he has left. Kira had sent him a proposal to lead the opposition against Dukat and the Dominion, but he tells her that he can't be the leader she's looking for because he's dying. He has something called Yaren Fel syndrome. We knew it would be something like this because Kira was way too happy and her happiness can't last. And from here we cue the theme song.
And there we have it. Kira's happy. This guy who is almost like a father figure to her, he's dying.
Yeah.
We've managed to ruin Kira's day, as is the tradition.
Very quickly.
Torturing Miles, making Kira unhappy.
Yes.
These are the two goals of the writing room.
Well, yeah, we do like to torture Miles, but with Kira, we have to make her really happy so that we can make her really sad.
Oh, yeah. This is also the tragedy of Tekeny, of what has happened to his daughter. Kira seems very genuinely upbeat.
Yeah.
When she says, look, we don't know what's happened to her. The Bajoran intelligence services, they haven't given up on the fact she could still be alive.
Right.
The other point of it is, I think Tekeny himself has given up on it because he's dying.
Even worse, yeah.
Which further adds to the tragedy.
Yeah. Well, the actor playing Kira's substitute dad is Lawrence Pressman. It's the same actor who played him in Second Skin.
Yeah.
And this is also another episode directed by Avery Brooks. It was funny because as I was watching this episode, there were a couple of scenes that had Sisko in them where I thought, this reminded me of some previous episodes that he had directed. It's almost like I can tell based on his character whether or not he's directing, but not anybody else's character.
Right.
It's hard to explain. It's just he has these like little moments where he just comes in to be annoyed at Dukat or to give a little dramatic couple of line reads, and then he's gone because the episode is never about him. Now we go to the infirmary, and Bashir confirms the diagnosis and says the prognosis isn't good because the disease is already spread. He says there are some treatments that we can try, but it doesn't look good. Kira still maintains her positive attitude at this point.
Well, Kira isn't someone to give up.
No,
she's going to continue to fight. We saw that with Bareil when the guy's 2/3 dead, and she is like, you keep going, we can fight this thing.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, now Gul Dukat calls Sisko to be his usual unpleasant self.
Hasn't Miles got instructions if Dukat wants to FaceTime?
Straight to voicemail.
Yes.
Sisko asks him why he's still calling himself Gul Dukat instead of Legate, which was something we wondered about a couple of episodes ago.
Right.
When Dukat says that he prefers the title of Gul because it's less pretentious than Emperor or Emissary, Sisko proposes the title of, how about Dominion Puppet?
Oh, that was a good
That was a good one.
from Sisko there. I brought this up before.
Yeah.
Is this that Dukat trying to play the false modesty card? You know, I don't need these grandiose titles. But what is that?
I don't know. Honestly. He says something about, well, Legate is not hands-on enough. Maybe it's too political and he wants to show that it's still a military force in charge.
Yeah.
I'm not sure with him. He's just obnoxious.
I felt like it was kind of a weird, humble bragging.
Yeah, that's a good description. Also, I liked how the two guys behind Dukat looked when Sisko said Dominion Puppet. They're both like, ooh, burn.
Oh, that would have been perfect if the Jem'Hadar had turned to the Cardassian. Fist bump, burn.
Oh, that was funny. So Dukat starts babbling about Cardassia enjoying unparalleled autonomy, but Sisko is like, what do you want, Dukat? Well, he's calling because Ghemor is wanted on Cardassia. Sisko says he'll think about it, but since the Federation doesn't recognize his government and there's no extradition treaty with either Bajor or the Federation, he tells Dukat to not get his hopes up, and then he hangs up. He really enjoyed that hang up. That was very satisfying.
Oh, and he delivers it with a grin as well.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't get your hopes up.
Like, I've considered it, and no.
I think it's telling as well that in the background you have a Jem'Hadar and a Cardassian. It's almost like a hint to, yeah, we're just saying who's in real control here.
Yeah.
So I'm going to jump into a little bit of overanalysis here of, at the beginning of this scene, did you notice that Sisko seemed kind of agitated or something was irritating him when he was about to record a log?
Yeah.
There was something on his mind. Was the directing just going badly or was this a deliberate scene? I am fascinated. What was getting to him? What was eating him? What was he going to record?
Yeah, I don't know if it had anything to do with the directing or if he was just, again, he didn't really have a lot to do in this episode. And so anytime they showed him, he had some little kind of irritation. That was his directing instructions to himself. You're irritated.
Yeah.
Now Ghemor is admiring the O'Brien baby, saying he almost feels like a grandfather, which is sad.
Yeah.
He asks if Kira is going to have a baby of her own, just like a real parent would do. She's surprised that he knows about her life and her relationship with Shakaar, but he says she's a public figure and it's not hard to find info about her. She even has her own section in the Cardassian Central Archives, which must really irritate Dukat.
Yes.
Wonder if they have her picture.
Remember, he made a dig at her when they left records behind that said she was like a nobody and she was just a minor messenger in the Resistance.
Yeah.
That was deliberate to irritate her, you know.
Of course, yeah.
I think it's a really nice touch here for the character of Kira. She's, if you like, unaware that she's a person of significance, that she's the first officer on a very important station, that she is romantically involved with the head of the Bajoran government, that the Cardassians see her as somebody worth having a whole section of archives for. And when he says as well, her feud with Kai Wynn is the stuff of legend.
Yeah.
It fits the character of Kira that all these things, the notoriety, the fame, and I'm sure she has a fan base, are irrelevant to her, and she doesn't pay them attention. And it's funny that he brings this up to her, and she seems almost irritated by that.
Yeah, she downplays it quite a bit.
Yeah.
She would have paparazzi following her around, I suppose, in a different world.
Yes.
If for no other reason than that she's the girlfriend of Shakaar, you know, the president.
Right.
But yeah, it's a good point. Kira tells Ghemor about Dukat wanting him extradited to Cardassia, and Ghemor knows that as long as he's alive, he's a threat to Dukat. He says he knows more about the Cardassian government than anyone else, info that could do a lot of good in the right hands. There's a Cardassian tradition, Shri Tal, where the dying give their secrets to their family to use against their enemies, but he has no one left to carry his secrets, so he asks Nerys to be his daughter one last time and listen to his secrets.
That sounds almost Romulan, doesn't it?
Yeah. It's not like to pass on the family history or anything. It's to use against my enemies.
Yeah, this is all the stuff I've picked up on people you can use to get power or influence and strong arm people into doing your bidding.
Makes sense.
Oh
in
my
Cardassia.
gosh. It does, doesn't
Mm-hmm.
it? I'm surprised they haven't had an alliance with the Romulans.
Yeah, that's a good point. Well, in Sisko's office, Sisko says, we don't have much intelligence on Cardassia, so this could be great, but Kira isn't sure she's the right person. She's worried that she wouldn't ask the right questions, and she wonders if maybe he could talk to a counselor or to Odo. But Sisko says Ghemor wants someone to talk to and someone to be with until the end. He's not looking to be debriefed.
If you wanted someone to debrief, it would be Odo.
Oh, for sure. It'd be very journalistic. And then we have a flashback to Kira's resistance fighting days. In a cave, we see our old friend Pharrell shouting for Nerys, whose father has been severely injured. I think this is the first time that we've seen her father, but he was mentioned in Second Skin.
Oh, and Pharrell is rocking a stash in this as well.
Yeah, he is. But no Lupiza. We don't see her.
Yeah. Budgetary constraints.
It could be. Back to the present, and Sisko asks if she's up to this challenge, and she recognizes that she really has no choice.
I'm all he's got, she says.
Yep.
She's so good. She's ever bound by her sense of duty.
Yep.
Kira as a character, there's no box checking. There's no half-assed compliance.
Yeah.
She's 100% all in. I have to do this.
Yeah, responsibility is her number one strength.
Oh, I think so.
On the Gallup Strengths Finder list.
This character would have a very interesting top 5.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd have to think about that, about what her traits would be. But I'm sure that responsibility's right up there.
Do they have one for killing Cardassians?
No. Now Bashir set up a way for Kira to administer pain meds while talking to Ghemor. So she pulls up an extremely uncomfortable-looking chair to sit on to start their conversation. And did you notice in the scene, I love that he's hooked up to the medical machines and like the thing to distribute the pain medication right through his sweater, which is moderately ridiculous. Instead of being right on his skin, it's actually over the arm of the sweater. Oh, I thought that was hilarious.
I did not notice that, but it is pretty funny.
It's very funny. But they don't want to do the arms. I mean, nobody ever has short sleeves. It's just unless they have normal human-looking arms, you don't see their arms.
I wonder if that's because otherwise you'd have to do the makeup all the way up the arms.
Yeah, you would. You'd have to do the full makeup.
And then it would be getting rubbed off all the time, or if you bashed it on anything.
Yeah, it would be hard.
Oh, yeah, right.
It's still funny. So now we start the information exchange, which Kira is recording. He starts by saying that Dukat's most powerful enemy is Gul Trapar, the head of the Fourth Order. As he talks, though, we go back to Kira in the cave with her dying father, and he tells her he tried to reason with the Cardassians when they set the village on fire. Kira tries to reassure him, but he's in a lot of pain, and he also says that he's afraid. She keeps calling for a medic, but he just wants her to stay with him, saying he doesn't want to be alone. She's very uncomfortable, but she does sit down with him.
Yeah.
Back in the present, the day's interview ends, and Kira takes what she has to Sisko, who says Starfleet Intelligence will be very pleased with this info. She's been up for 30 hours straight, and even though she's tired, Bashir calls her back to Ghemor's quarters, and we learn that Ghemor is not responding to the therapy that Bashir was trying. So Ghemor says we have to keep talking because we don't have much time.
He seems to be getting a lot worse.
Yep. Meanwhile, Dukat and Weyoun arrive in a Jem'Hadar battleship. They've locked weapons on the station, asking about Sisko's decision on handing over Ghemor. And then Weyoun and Dukat come into Sisko's office, and Sisko tells Weyoun that he's pretty sure he saw him die, and here's where we learn that the Vortas are actually clones.
I've been wanting to tell you this for ages, ever since To the Death. No, this isn't the last time we get to see Weyoun.
I knew it wasn't the last time we were going to see him.
Yeah.
But I think I read or I heard somewhere that they came up with the idea of the Vortas being clones just so they could bring Jeffrey Combs back, not because it really was part of the story for the Vorta.
Yeah. Jeffrey Combs just brings this character to life.
Yeah,
he
definitely
really gets him. And you see this very smooth, almost like super used car salesman in the way that Weyoun behaves. And after explaining about the cloning, Sisko says, immortality. And I loved how immediately Weyoun replied with, sort of, interested.
Yeah, I like are you interested?
Immediately looking for that in, which the previous Weyoun, which we learned was Weyoun 4, did when he asked Sisko, how would you like to be the head of the Federation?
Yeah.
No council, no, everybody answers to you. looking for those little inroads. And I think that's where Coombs really makes this character. If he makes that seem so believable.
Which, by the way, that worked on Dukat, obviously. It did not work on Sisko.
Yes. I wonder if, and this is overanalysis, if that is a big part of the Dominion, that the Vorta look for these weak links.
Oh, yeah,
for the people that they can turn. And a lot of the Dominion conquests, or the planets that join the Dominion and become part of it, there isn't a shot fired because they find the people who'll go along with it.
And join the cult.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And also, jumping to something else, the ship. This is why I think Kilana, the other female Vorta, was in the red dress and all gussied up. It was a deliberate attempt to appeal to Sisko, because they know about Sisko's thing with the red dress and a woman who looks very elegant. They're always trying to get in your head.
Mm-mm. Yeah. I don't know if I buy that, but it's an explanation. It's headcanon.
Yes.
Well, Dukat knows that Ghemor is sick, and he says that he should come home to get proper health care. And he also says that Ghemor's case was reviewed by the new judicial system, and he's been cleared of any wrongdoing. And Weyoun says Dominion courts are renowned for their honesty and equanimity.
I have some overanalysis on this.
Yeah, okay. They think that it should be Ghemor's decision and not Sisko's, so we head to Ghemor's quarters, and Ghemor pretty much tells Dukat off.
Right.
Weyoun says to Dukat, he doesn't seem to like you very much, which I thought was really funny.
We're going to have to do something about your public image.
Yeah. Well, then Dukat says he knows where Ghemor's daughter is, but Kira knows that he's lying.
Yeah.
And Ghemor says he might have come to an agreement with Dukat, but not with the Dominion involved, so he kicks them out, and Kira is very relieved. And impressed, I would say.
Dukat claims to know where Ileana is, and this doesn't even sway Tekeny.
No, because he knows he's lying.
Okay.
He would have swayed, I think, for his daughter, but I think he knows he's lying.
Okay. I made the assumption, yes, that Dukat would simply lie. He would say anything you wanted to hear to get his way.
Absolutely.
Which is a shame, because I really want her to be alive.
Well, she might be.
In my own headcanon, she lives.
That's fine.
Just like Vasquez.
Now there's a montage of Ghemor talking and Kira recording and looking after him as he declines. She is also looking more and more tired with each scene. There's a throwaway scene of Quark telling Kira that she looks terrible, but he likes his women a little rumpled. I don't see how this was necessary.
Can't miss a chance to creep on Kira.
Yeah. He does say that he'll get her some warm milk of some kind. I didn't write down the kind of milk that he said, but he said it'll help her sleep. Later, Dukat comes to Kira with some info about Ghemor, and I think we all saw this coming. I mean, I could have written that this is what he would do.
Oh, yeah.
He asks if she recalls the massacre at the Keisha Monastery, and he gives her Ghemor's official military record.
Yeah.
Kira at this point kind of laughs at him, saying he's getting a perverse pleasure out of this. And then she throws something narrowly missing his head and says, I promise you, Dukat, I will make you pay for all of this one day. And he says maybe, but not today.
She throws the cup that she had at him.
Yep, just misses him.
I have to bring up, they must have hidden all the phasers on the station, because why she didn't just shoot him and go? I was cleaning it and it went off.
Yep. I was really upset at this moment. I was just like, Kira, do not look at that pad. You know nothing good can come from that.
Yeah.
Whether it's fake or it's real, it doesn't matter. You know what he brought to you in order to try to take you down this rabbit hole. Why, at this point, why would you look at it? But she does. She picks it up and the music swells really dramatically into an ad break.
Anytime Dukat comes to you with his smugness level on 11, you'd want nothing to do with it.
No, she should have thrown the pad at his head, not her cup.
She should have just shot him. Let's be honest here.
I'm sure she has phasers in her quarters.
Oh.
I'm sure it crossed her mind.
I'll put money. If you look under Kira's tables, there'll be phasers taped underneath them.
Yep. Well, now Kira is upset. She tells off Ghemor and says that she knows he was at the monastery. He says it was war and it was easy to despise you. But you weren't the monsters. We were. Then he says he wishes he'd never joined the military, but he did. But she's not in a forgiving mood or a listening mood right now, and she kind of storms out. It's really awful.
Kira, you played right into Dukat's hands here. What are you doing?
100%.
I feel, to me, this is the only weak bit in the story. She knew he was a Cardassian legate.
Yeah.
She knew he'd been on Bajor. She could have found his record at any point and the things that he'd done. And this is the point that it comes up.
Yeah.
It's almost like, why would you want to look at this stage?
It's a little too easy for the story, I would say. Yeah.
Yes.
But I have this in my overanalysis too, but I think they're trying to convince us that she's so tired, right? And she hasn't slept for days. And so maybe her decision-making is not great.
Yes, I will accept that.
Yeah, I have some other things about that in overanalysis too when we get there.
Okay.
Well, in Quarks, Weyoun is enjoying Dabo way too much. He's so excited to win.
See, again, this is why Coombs is so great. He just brings this character to life.
Sisko approaches them and asks them to join him for a glass of Kanar, but Dukat says he's not thirsty. Dukat won't drink it, and of course it's because the bottle is poisoned, and it was delivered to Ghemor's quarters. Dukat tries to exert some authority over Sisko by telling him that he's coming dangerously close to accusing the new head of the Cardassian government of murder.
He's so full of himself. The head of the Cardassian government.
Yes, and Weyoun is delighted by this entire interaction. He finds it hilarious. He quickly grabs and downs the drink, which shocks Sisko and Dukat, but apparently the Vorta are immune to most forms of poison. He says it comes in handy as a diplomat.
Yeah, it's the way he chugs it and then says, oh, that is toxic, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh. You know, Weyoun does seem like a fun guy to hang out with.
Yeah, he does. He seems like he's having a good time.
Yeah.
You know what? He would probably be good on Dax's podcast.
Oh, I think he'd be great. I mean, you know, if you took him out to a party, he'd be the one telling jokes, playing all the games. I bet you could play Exploding Kittens with him. He'd have a lot of fun.
Yeah, I think he would be fun, yeah.
Also, I think you're seeing here that Quark is happy to have them in his bar, because just in case things don't go the Federation's way and he'll be under new management in the future, the Vorta and maybe the Cardassians could frequent the bar again. Quark hedging his bets.
Well, and remember Zael telling him, hey, maybe the Vorta are sex-crazed alcoholics?
Oh, that's right. Who are into gambling.
Yeah, and so maybe he's trying it out to see if he can get any money out of them.
So they were cloned from Curzon.
Maybe.
This is the big secret. Weyoun is actually a Curzon clone.
Although I do have in my notes at this point, why have we not ordered these idiots off the station? I'm not clear on why Sisko lets them wander around. Just get out.
Right. I don't understand it either. Wouldn't you confine them to the ship? Why would you even let the ship dock?
Yeah.
They just tried to blow up the entire Bajoran solar system.
Yes.
And you let them come in for play some Dabo and have a drink or two.
What if it's a trap? What if they're walking around planting bombs? I mean, yes, they have people following them, but still. They could have brought a shapeshifter onto the station.
Right.
They could have brought it in as a cup and set it somewhere. I mean, it doesn't make any sense that we'd allow them on the station.
How do you know that's really Dukat? And how do you know that Vorta is not a changeling?
You don't.
It's so dangerous.
You don't know anything.
As soon as that ship came out of warp, every Starfleet in the sector should have destroyed it. It should have been a Vulcan hello.
I agree.
I guess it's the Federation thing of, can't we just talk this through?
I guess, but it's so dangerous. If it wasn't for the fact that they could have brought a changeling onto the station so easily, then I would think that that was it. But it's too easy for them to get. But I guess anybody coming onto the station could be a changeling, so maybe that's overthinking it as well.
As soon as they left, I'd have Bashir checked out.
Oh, yeah. Check Bashir.
You know, he's the first person they go for some reason.
First thing you have to do is check Bashir. I totally agree. Well, now Odo finds Kira coming out of the temple. He's surprised that she stopped visiting Ghemor, but Kira says he's just like the rest of them. But Odo has read Ghemor's file too, and Ghemor was only 19 when that massacre happened, and just one of 400 soldiers involved. He's like, you don't even know if he fired a phaser. And then he says, if Ghemor's record really mattered to you, you would have looked it up yourself.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
I love how Odo is kind of the unemotional, pure reason, almost the Vulcan in this situation.
Stating the obvious.
Right. If you'd wanted to know this, you could have found it out. Why does it make a difference now?
Totally. Yeah. Well, this causes another flashback to Kira and her dying father. And he says he can hear the prophets calling to him. Pharrell comes in saying they found the Cardassians responsible, and Kira says she's coming with them. Her dad doesn't want her to go, but she goes anyway. And then back to the present, and Kira's back in her quarters, and Bashir comes to talk to her, saying Ghemor's condition has deteriorated, and he's likely to be dead within the hour.
Yeah.
Bashir is surprised that she's not willing to go to Ghemor, but she pretty much kicks Julian out.
Yeah.
And on his way out, he says, regardless of whatever Ghemor did in his past, he doesn't deserve to die alone. So, of course, we flash back to Kira and Pharrell and the others returning from killing the Cardassians to find that her father has died. And just to turn the knife some more, she learns that he died while calling out her name. Kira responds by saying she wants to kill more Cardassians.
That's where Pharrell should slap that guy upside the head and say, yeah, you didn't need to say that.
No, there's no reason to tell her that. That is, oh my goodness, terrible.
Yeah, so part of Kira's reaction to all of this is she's really racked with guilt about her own father's death, about not being there.
For sure. Yeah, absolutely.
I think Bashir is displaying that evolved human, very Federation empathy. No one deserves to die alone. It's almost like, even if they're an invading war criminal.
Yeah, I think somebody does.
Arguably, this guy is a war criminal, so...
Dukat might. I'm not sure I would sit by Dukat's bed.
No, Dukat doesn't deserve to die alone. Somebody should be there shooting him at the time.
Oh, well, there is that, yeah.
Kira, ideally, but anyway.
Well, then we see Kira digging a grave for her father, and Pharrell asks if he should call everyone together for a small service, but Kira says there's nothing left to say. And back in the present, she finally goes to see Ghemor, who is still alive and is pretty happy to see her and surprised.
Yeah.
And she rests her head on his chest.
It was very touching.
Yeah, that was hard.
Yes.
And then in the next scene, Bashir is recording the time of death, and Kira looks just devastated. She said he got so quiet toward the end, just breathing, and at the end of every exhale, there was a pause, and she thought, that's it, he's gone, but then he'd force another breath. I have to say, this is painfully realistic to me.
Yeah.
Bashir said, you gave him something he needed. You were there. And Kira says, he gave me something I needed. She says she missed her own father's death by less than an hour, and she'd always tried to convince herself that it was just bad luck or bad timing or the will of the prophets. But the truth is, she could have stayed with him. But when she had a chance to run away, she did. She couldn't stand to see someone so strong slip away. And Ghemor reminded her so much of her father that she didn't think she could face it again. But she felt that she owed it to her father to get it right this time.
And there was the big reveal.
Yeah.
It wasn't that she was busy doing her duty at the time her father died. She wanted to avoid it. She didn't want to be there. That, I thought, was the best part of this episode.
It's the most realistic.
Yeah.
From my point of view, that's a very human, I know she's not human, but that's a very human reaction to that moment. So I get it. Now in Sisko's office, Dukat wants to return Ghemor's body to Cardassia. And then he talks about how Ghemor was a great man who had a last-minute change of heart, and on his deathbed, he embraced the new Dominion government. Sisko is like, that did not happen. But Dukat says that he'll bury Ghemor with full state honors.
Oh.
And Sisko's like, well, that's not possible. Legate Ghemor's funeral arrangements have already been taken care of.
Wow. Total fake news. They're going to make a story up.
He changed sides right before he died.
Right. He embraced the Dominion government. Oh, man, that is...
I'd like to see the tape. Could you show me the video of that happening?
That is some really low-grade crap right there.
Oh, terrible.
And also the way, when Sisko brings up that, he didn't relent, Weyoun says, oh, a small problem.
Yeah, he's like, that's fine.
Yeah, not really an issue. I could see that, though, as a typical Cardassian behavior.
Oh, yeah.
That if there is a dissident, you give them a state funeral or you make a big deal out of it because, at the end, they actually relented.
Yeah, that's very Cardassian. Well, in the last scene, we see that Kira has buried Ghemor next to her real father.
Yes.
And that's the end. Over analysis?
Okay. There are a few things I want to talk about. Oh, yeah, the first one, which is maybe not an obvious one.
Yep.
Dominion courts, honesty and equanimity.
Oh, yes, that was good.
I have the feeling here almost any legal system is probably better than the Cardassian one.
Where they're guilty from the beginning?
Yeah, exactly. The court is just there to confirm their guilt.
Yeah.
Now, this might seem odd, but given what we know about Odo and his sense of actual justice, I assume if you don't oppose the Dominion, or you don't try and stop them doing their things, that when it comes to their actual legal system of guilt, innocence, etc., I assume they would actually be quite honest, that they would want to find the real person responsible for something, certainly in criminal cases or anything like that. But if it came to opposing the Dominion, then Jem'Hadar will just beat you to death.
You could also imagine that the reason the courts are known for honesty is because people are terrified and they threaten them and torture them to get the truth out of them in double quotes.
Ah, the Dominion truth.
The Dominion truth, exactly.
Interesting. Yeah, oppressive regimes aren't usually known for good court systems.
Right, exactly.
Which really says something about how bad the Cardassian system is if this is a step up.
Yeah, right.
Okay, next thing.
Yeah.
Why did they let them on the station?
I have no idea. We spent a lot of time talking about it. I don't understand. They could have been changelings. They could have brought bombs. Yeah. It makes no sense. You just tried to kill all of us last week.
Yeah.
Why would we just let you on the station? Why would we let you dock? Just like you said, why would we let you dock? It makes no sense. And then they tried to poison Ghemor, and they still leave him on the station. It makes no sense.
Especially in a warship.
Exactly.
As soon as it came out of warp, every photon torpedo, every phaser, everything you have, destroy it. I could see it working if it was Dukat and Weyoun in an unarmed shuttle, as a sign of peace.
Yeah, but they turned up in a battleship.
Yeah, the Federation would be total suckers for, they've turned up in an unarmed ship just to talk.
Yeah. No, they turned up in the battleship and they made a point of saying their weapons were locked on the station.
Yeah.
But I guess they could easily say, well, we were just protecting ourselves because we thought you would shoot at us.
That's a good take, yes.
And I suppose Sisko could also say, I had to let them on just to try to have a discussion rather than a firefight.
Yeah.
That it would be safer for all the people if we just had a discussion.
That would be the Federation approach.
Yeah.
We'll shoot last.
But it's a Bajoran station, and a week ago they tried to kill everybody and blow up the station.
Yeah.
It's
fine.
On very shaky ground.
To say the least.
Yeah.
And I think my last analysis point, my vote is for Alana still being alive.
I hope she is.
My canon, she's alive, Vasquez is alive, and the sheriff's alive.
The sheriff. Yeah.
And I think that wraps it up with this over-analysis. Not an analysis-heavy episode. We already know these characters fairly well, and this, I think, just added a little depth to them. So I will pass over to you and your analysis, Kim.
Well, yeah, and for the most part, the motivations are clear. By the end of the episode, they've pretty much explained everything. Yeah. So there's not a lot for us to pull apart and figure out on our own.
Right.
But I think Odo makes such a good point in the episode when he says that Kira had every opportunity to look up Ghemor's record on her own, and she didn't.
Yeah.
So why at that moment, at the end of his life, with an hour left for him to live... I guess she didn't know there was only an hour left when she looked at it. But why would she pick that moment to choose to do it, especially when it was Dukat that prodded her into it?
Yes.
And I thought a lot about it, and I did think they spent a lot of time telling us how tired she was because she wasn't getting any sleep, and they would show her sort of hanging over chairs, sort of trying to get sleep that way. So it's possible that the exhaustion led her to taking the bait. I think that's one possibility.
I think that's a great take, that she wasn't necessarily thinking 100% straight because of the absolute exhaustion.
I do think there's a lot of conflicting emotions in those situations where somebody is dying. It certainly could have been, yes, she was tired, but it also could have just been that she was still looking for a way to avoid being there when he died.
Oh.
You know, she talks about how she looked for a way out, or not so much that she looked for a way out when her dad died, but when there was one, she took it and she ran away. So you could sort of look at this the same way as, this was an opportunity for her to run away from it again. But she decided she didn't need that pain again and that she would step through it. That also could have been a reason. It's like, here's an out. I'm going to take it.
I think that she used duty once before, and taking his record and using it, if you like, against him, that was another way of her being able to step aside.
Yeah.
Both of them are really good reasons.
I can really relate to not knowing how to cope with being there for the worst thing and trying to, I guess, having a battle in your own mind about, I know I'm going to feel guilty if I'm not there, but I'm also not sure I want to be there. I found that really to be quite relatable. So,
Yeah.
That makes sense to me that that's the conflict that she's having, even though she's not human. It's a human reaction. We all have to deal with our own
emotion,
things.
yeah.
But also, I mean, especially if you have any kind of conflicting feelings about the person.
Yeah.
There's always something. There's always some sort of a conflict about a parent that maybe didn't get along for some period of time or whatever. They didn't treat you in a particular way that you wanted to be treated. So there's always that too. It's different, I guess, with a parent. And so with this Cardassian sort of parent, that conflict is there in a different way because he is Cardassian and he was involved and he's just part of that race that really tortured and killed your race. So you've already got that conflict built in.
Yeah.
So that is definitely going to feed that crazy narrative in your head that, oh, do I really want to go through this? Do I really want to sit there and watch this happen? Because it's horrible.
And if you're exhausted.
You're not thinking straight. I also found it such an interesting image where her almost father was holding her almost baby, and this was her almost family. I thought that was a really interesting image. I'm not sure the conversation was that great. That dialogue in that scene wasn't that interesting. I think it could have been a lot more interesting.
Yeah.
But what an interesting picture for her, or a picture of her, where here's a thing you could have, but you don't quite have it.
Right. Well, and it also ties into Kira's sense of duty. Who else was going to carry the baby in the critical situation? And she did it with that sense of, I have to do this.
Yes, she had to do it, but she wasn't expecting the emotional component of it. She was doing her duty, but at the end, she was like, oh, I really want to be with that baby, even though it's not mine. And I think that was hard for her.
Oh, that's an interesting study of Kira.
Yeah.
It's almost like somebody who's learning emotions.
Yeah. How to accept them.
Yeah, because she was fighting Cardassians from 14. She hasn't had anything approaching a normal emotional development.
Right. Well, the last point I have in my overanalysis is the stark difference in the landscape and the environment when she was burying her real father versus when she was burying Ghemor next to him. Because when it was her real father, the sky was orange and nothing was green, and it was this sort of bare landscape. It almost looked like it was on fire.
Yeah.
And then when she was burying Ghemor, it was like a garden. It was green, and the grass had grown where she had buried her real father. And the sky was blue, and there were trees and flowers around, which were not there the first time. So I also thought that was a really interesting contrast just in the imagery.
Maybe Kira made that a garden, because remember, he loved his garden.
Maybe.
And worked on it.
Oh, yeah, that's true. They talked about his garden a lot, and so maybe she had deliberately turned it into that. Yeah. I hadn't thought of that. That's a good point. I was thinking about it more like they talked about the Cardassians poisoning Bajor.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And so since they moved out, it was able to return to what it had been before, which was more beautiful. Yeah.
That's a good take. Also very meaningful that she buried him there with her father.
Oh, totally. Yeah. That was definitely meaningful.
You can look at it as they both fulfilled a need the other had. He needed connection with a daughter that was lost, and she needed closure with a father who in his final moments, she couldn't cope with it.
Because she couldn't face it, yeah. Well, let's go to women in the future. Not much to say here. She wasn't treated as lesser because of her emotions in this situation, so I appreciated that. There's just that one stupid statement from Quark, which was pretty forgettable in the overall episode.
Yeah.
So I will go straight to rating. Thumbs up, thumbs down, or neutral. What is your rating?
Absolute thumbs up. Great episode. More of that filling out Kira as a character. Also, the tragedy of Tekeny is a great story. He gave everything for Cardassia. Yeah. And almost like Garak, he's exiled from it in the end. It's hard to call an episode in which Kira is very unhappy. We lose a great character, and you learn more about just the tragedy of both their lives. Enjoyable. But it was enjoyable as a TV show.
Yeah, I agree. I give it a thumbs up. what's not to like? It was an emotional episode. It was good characters. It was a great performance from Nana Visitor. Good guest stars. I thought Jeffrey Combs' Weyoun was really funny.
Oh, yeah.
I see why he's so popular as that character. He seems to be the one who gets the Vorta the most.
Oh, absolutely.
So overall, very good.
I would love to hear that episode of Dax's podcast with Weyoun on it.
That would be such a good episode. Oh my God. Okay, that wraps up Season 5, Episode 19. Come back next week for Episode 20. In the meantime, if you'd like to give us your own over-analysis of this or any episode, or if you just want to say something nice, you can email us at ReBingeIT@gmail.com or tweet us at ReBingeIT. We're also on Instagram and YouTube at ReBingeIT. There is also a Patreon for Talk Through Media that you could sign up for, which helps pay for the servers that the podcast sit on and for the website as well. That is patreon.com/Star Trek TTM. That supports not just our podcast, but all of the other podcasts on the Talk Through Media network.
Thanks for joining us on the Rebinge Deep Space Nine podcast.
That's it for me.
And that's it from me.